Congratulations on completing the practical life lessons. Now we're going to start with the sensorial lessons. And before we start with sensorial, we need to learn what we call the 3-period lesson. I'm going to show you how to do the 3-period lesson by presenting it to someone, and the person is going to pose as a child. After that, then we dive into knowing much more about the 3-period lesson. Hi Izzy.
Yes, Mama.
Today I'm going to show you some new words and new names of colors, okay? Are you ready?
Yes.
Alright. Izzy, this is red. Can you say red?
Red.
This is yellow. Can you say yellow?
Yellow.
This is blue. Can you say blue?
Blue.
Izzy, can you take blue for me? Can you point at yellow? Alright, now can you give me yellow? Can you take red for me? Alright, can you show me red? Now give me red again. Alright. Lizzie, what did I say this color was?
Red.
Red. That's right. Lizzie, what is this?
Yellow.
Yellow. Lizzie, what is this?
Blue.
Blue. So today we learned some new colors. Can you help me so we mention all together and point at the same time with your hands? We learned blue, yellow, and red. Would you like to continue?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the new colors we worked with. Anytime you see these colors, you know this is blue, red, blue, yellow, and then red. Next time I'll show you some more colors, okay?
Okay.
So, you saw how we presented a 3-period lesson. Now let's dive into it very well to know how it's really done. This 3-period lesson is done in 3 different stages. That is why we call it 3-period lessons. The first period is called the naming period. Can you write that down? The first period is called the naming period. Now, what do we do during the naming period? Is the naming period that we name the new things to the child. That is where we teach the child the names of these new things, introducing them to the new vocabularies. So as you saw us do, we introduce the materials as this is blue. Can you say blue? And the child said blue. This is yellow. Can you say yellow? And the child said yellow. So during the naming period, we only mention the names of the material. So let me do it once again for you to see. This is red. Can you say red? That is what we do. This is yellow. Can you say yellow? This is blue. Can you say blue? Then the child says blue. So that is the naming period. It's done in isolation always. What do we mean by that? This means that introducing something new to the child, you have to make sure that you don't bring a lot of these things you are introducing to them. This might confuse them. So during the first period, we are only introducing that thing that we want them to see alone. So instead of bringing red, yellow, and blue together, we only bring red. We name it and we take it back. We bring yellow, we name, we take it back. We bring blue, we name, we take it back. So the child sees what we are naming alone. So the naming period is done in isolation. Now the second period is called the recognition period. The second period is called the recognition period. How is it done? After naming the materials, we want to see if the child can actually recognize what we named at first. So this time around, you are going to bring all what you named together in front of the child, like this. After putting all the items in front of the child, now you ask the child, and the language you use here is, Can you show me? Can you give me? So you mention the thing for the child to recognize. So we say, can you give me blue? Can you give me yellow? Can you give me red? Always remember that we always ask the last thing that was mentioned in the first period for the child to recognize. Why do we do that? In the first period, let's say we started with red. This is red, this is yellow, this is blue. During the second period, we want them to recognize what they really and what we show them. So we are going to start from blue, because blue was the last thing that was mentioned to the child. This is because blue was the last thing that was mentioned to the child. That is what is on the child's mind at that moment. And so it's going to be very easy for the child to produce it. If we go to ask from the beginning, it's going to be a problem, because the child has to think things through, pass by the blue and the yellow that just entered, and go look for what was red. The chain in which the lessons entered into the child's brain is going to be distracted. So we always ask them to recognize the last thing that was mentioned during the first period. And now they recognize it in this way. Can you give me blue? Can you show me yellow? Can you carry red for me? And the child carries red. So we follow the sequence as we did in the first period, but now starting from the bottom to what we mentioned first. That is the second period. That is the recognition period. Now let's look at the third period, which is called the recall period. The third period is called the recall period. This is where we want to see if the child can actually recall the name of what we introduced to them. The third period is also done in isolation. We bring them one after the other. We don't mix them up in front of the child. So during the third period, we bring them in isolation. Always remember that during the third period too, we start from the last thing that was mentioned in the second period. So take note of that. We start from the last thing that was mentioned in the second period. So here, red was mentioned in the second period last. So we bring red in front of the child, and then we ask the child, what is this? Here is where the child is going to produce the name for us. So if we go back to from the beginning, we see that the naming period, we name the materials. The recognition period, we the facilitators call the name of the material and ask the child to recognize it. Now, during the third period, the facilitator do not mention the name of the material anymore. You ask the child, what is this? And the child should be the one to produce the name of that thing for you. So you'll be like, what is this? Red. It's done in isolation. So it's taken back and you ask, what is this? Yellow. We take it back and then, what is this? Blue. So that is how the recall period is also done. Now let's look at some of the importance of this activity. The 3-period lesson is used to introduce new vocabularies to children. We use it in all areas in the Montessori classroom. Now, these are some tips to follow. First, always make sure that the child is ready before you call the child to introduce the child to something new. When the child is not ready, the child is feeling dizzy, unhappy, the child is not ready for the class or the lesson, please do not introduce something new to the child. Make sure the child is ready. Invite the child in a humble way. Always approach the child in a nice way so the child will be ready for this lesson. Secondly, make sure that you present only 2 or 3 items to the child at a time. Never introduce the children to more than 3 items. This is a new thing that a child is going to be introduced to. If you bring about 4 things to show the child at that moment, it might be too much. Children below 3 years, let's say 2.5 to 3 years, can only be introduced to 2 things at a time. In a day, you can choose to introduce 2 things in the morning, that is 2 new words in the morning. In the afternoon, you can humbly approach the child and introduce another 2 things to them. So with that lesson, as you are sitting to do the 3-period lesson, you should not introduce more than 2 items to the children below 3 years. Now, when you have children about 3 to 4, also introduce only 3 things. Do not do it more than 3. That is for the lesson called the 3-period lesson. We are not saying for the day. So if you want to introduce about 5 new things to the child in a day, then in the morning, you can choose 3 to introduce in the 3-period lesson. Then, after some time, you can now bring the next 2 vocabularies to teach. Always make sure that these new things you are introducing to the child has actually worked with these materials. When you want to introduce, let's say, the pink towel to the child, make sure the child has worked with the pink towel for some time, knows how to arrange the towel, they know what has to be at the bottom and what has to be at the tip of it. They know all that. Before you can now come and introduce some new vocabularies, let's say to give you a clue, this is big, this is bigger, this is small. Teaching them these new vocabularies with this pink towel, make sure that the children knows how to handle the pink towel, knows how to build the towel, has to work with it before you come to have the 3-period lesson with them. The next tip is reinforce these lessons all the time. After teaching the child these new vocabularies using the 3-period lesson, don't think that because I'm done with the 3-period lesson in a day, the child should automatically know it forever. And so tomorrow I'm going to start to introduce some new words which are different from what I introduced yesterday. That is not so. Make sure you reinforce the lesson for as long as the children will keep on to remember. So assuming these color lessons have been taught and the child has learned red, yellow, and then blue, you have to reinforce the lesson and make sure with different activities and different situations to see if the child really recalls each color. So for instance, in the classroom, you want the child to take a pencil. You can be like, can you go to the pencil case and bring a red pencil? Can you take the yellow chair for me? So you use different situations and different activities to see if the child can actually recall the colors for you. At home, you can ask the parent to also do same. Can you tell the parent that when the child is about to eat, just tell the child to go to the kitchen and bring the red bowl, bring the yellow bowl, let the child wear the yellow pajamas for the night. So the parents will also get involved to reinforce these lessons. Now, another tip is never be rigid. During the 3-period lesson, we don't make it seem like a formal presentation to the children. No, we don't do that. Make sure that you are very flexible. Make it an easy way to understand. It's not like you trying to let the child know that you are learning and the child have to be stiff. And so this is red, say red. This is yellow, say yellow. This is blue, say blue. No, make it fun. This is yellow, can you say yellow? Now we have a lot of yellow things at home. So just be friendly. Make the lesson fun. That is what you have to keep in mind. Don't be rigid, so the children will also enjoy learning these new vocabularies. Another thing we have to keep in mind is that these young children are born to make mistakes. They are bound to make mistakes. They are now learning, and so you don't have to keep it in mind that since you've told them that this is red, they should know red forever. During the 3-period lesson, the naming period is very easy. This is red, can you say red? They will say red. This is yellow, can you say yellow? They will say yellow. But maybe during the 2nd period, you ask them to give you yellow and they give you blue. What happens there? This means that they didn't really get the concept. And so what will you have to do? You have to go back and start the naming period again. Then now when you get to the 2nd period, you are hoping that the child will get it this time. The ones they are making a mistake on or they are getting it wrong, emphasize on it. You can repeat it about 3 times. This is yellow, can you say yellow? This is yellow, can you take yellow and say yellow? Do a whole lot of things for the child to get that particular thing that he or she is getting it wrong. Now, after that, and still the child is not getting it right during the 2nd period or the 3rd period, it may be that the child's concentration might not be there. You just have to leave the lesson and then reschedule that lesson for another time. Or if you think the child is not able to grasp all 3 at a go, maybe the child's way of grasping things is not that much. So you have to pause, take away one of the items and then only introduce them to 2. If it is 2 and still the child is finding it difficult to get, take 1 out and only introduce the child to 1 thing at a time. If that is what will get in there, don't force it. Take your time. And then these lessons is going to be really good. So this 3-period lesson is only not used in sensorial as we are about to start. We are going to use it to teach the children the letters of the alphabet, the numbers. We are going to use it a lot in the culture area. We will use it in the language area. So from the sensorial, language, numeracy and culture, we are going to use the 3-period lesson to introduce children to new concepts. So let's get it right from now. We are going to present it individually when we come for practicals. And also, as you are home, you're going to be given an assignment to present this. So watch the video over and over again and understand the 3-period lesson. Now let's get the sensorial lesson started.